Constitution. But yes, if you look at what's happened, there's been a major boom in Florida real estate. And honestly, home prices have gone up everywhere. They've gone up probably more here because we've had more demand, more population. And so what happens is someone that bought a house for $300,000 10 years ago is now being told their house is worth $750,000. Well, that's an unrealized gain. You haven't sold your house for that much, but somehow your property tax bill is going up. When Floridians have to sell a home, like maybe, you have a smaller home, now you have kids, you need a bigger, you then go into a higher tax basis. So even if you do the homestead, you're in a situation, if you bought a house over the last couple years, you're paying more for property taxes than you would have just a few years, and by a significant amount. If you look at the budgets of these local governments, and the CFO, Blaise Ngoli, has done a really good job of going on site. They're doing a lot of stuff, and honestly, not everyone's been cooperative, and we'll have more to say on that shortly, and showing, okay, wait a minute, Broward County, even though Florida's had a lot of population growth, Broward, since 2020, has not had any net population growth, and yet their budget's gone up like 60%. And so you ask yourself, well, what is that? And why is it going up? Because people buy homes, it's a gusher of revenue that's going into the coffers. And so rather than returning that money to the taxpayers, they've basically been spending it. So what I think taxpayers want is, okay, local government, we want education, 100%. We want law enforcement and fire and other first responders, some of the water infrastructure, 100%. But we don't need some of the stuff that's been spent money on. And that's the purpose of these audits and these overviews, to be able to show taxpayers, that yes, it can be done. My position, and we're working on the concrete proposal, is twofold. One, if you're a Florida resident and you have a primary residence here, your homesteaded property, I think you should be able to own that free and clear of the government. I don't think that the government should be able to just tax you infinitum. And yes, it hurts senior citizens who are on fixed income, but it also hurts young families to try to get ahead by constantly getting hit up. And we're in a unique situation where that's a minority of the property tax revenue that goes to local governments. Probably about a third is homestead. The rest is either non-homestead or commercial. And so if you just return budgets to where they were 4 or 5 years ago, I think that would probably be enough as it is. But we have tourists coming. We have a lot of opportunities. Some of these rural counties may not have that. And I said I'm willing to help backfill their revenue from the state coffers, because it's not that much revenue. But like the Tampa Bay area, Miami, all these places, like you have people that are paying taxes who aren't residents here. Literally, you can shift the tax burden to people that can't. I mean, local government can shift more to people that can't even vote them out of office. Like that's what you want. You don't want the people that vote to not have to pay, and then the people that are just visiting or snowbirds to be able to do it. So I think it's definitely doable. I also think, though, if you are going to have for investment properties or snowbirds or commercial properties or whatever taxing is being done there. Now, I think that revenue should only be able to use for things like education, police, fire, and some of the water things. I don't think that they should be able, even a snowbird, to tax that and use it on some of these extraneous stuff. So let's say we want to do everything everyone agrees on, we'll do that. But rather than grow budget in other areas, I would rather that be for the property tax, for you guys not to do the property tax on the homesteaded properties. And I'll tell you, we're the only state that can probably pull this off, given the structure of our economy, you remember, and part of this is political, President Trump comes in and kind of the media is like, oh, no one wants to come to America. Like literally, I was being given reports saying no one's coming anymore and foreign tourism is tanked. And maybe that was true in other parts. Maybe there has been a drop. I can tell you in Florida, we just had in the most recent quarter, we had the best quarter ever that we've had for the second quarter of any year. We had massive numbers of Canadians coming in. Remember they said the Canadians aren't coming in? No, they're coming in. As a kid that grew up in Dunedin, I just remember in February and March, I'd see more Ontario license plates than I would see Florida plates, because they're all there to watch the Blue Jays in spring training. So we have this. We have people that are doing, and then you also have another issue that is kind of under the surface that I think a lot of voters are concerned about, because we've never had a situation where home prices are more out of whack from median household income. So if you look at the median household income in the United States is probably something, between $75,000 and $85,000. The median home price is well over $400,000. So to be able to afford the median home in the United States right now, you would need to be making like $130,000. So that's not sustainable. Something's going to give on that. And I think people see, hey, it's expensive, it's hard, especially for young people who are just starting out. I mean, I remember when Casey and I got married, we got married when the market had tanked, the real estate market. So we got married in 2009, we bought a home, and honestly, that was the bottom of the market. And so we were able, I was a lieutenant in the Navy. It wasn't like I was living high on the hog. She was successful doing what she was doing with TV. But we were able to do that. If we were starting out today, me being in the Navy and her doing what she was doing, I don't think we would have been able to afford even a modest, this was an 1,800 square foot house, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 3-bedroom, 3-bath, like whatever. It was nice, but I mean, it was not like extravagant. There's no way we'd be able to afford that. And so I think people look and they say, okay, what is driving this? Well, part of it is just the COVID fiscal policies, and the Fed printing money has inflated things, which makes it difficult for a lot of people. But then a lot of people say, well, wait a minute. Is BlackRock going in and buying these neighborhoods? And so they can afford to buy the homes, and then they just rent it out to people. And so are we going to become like a nation of renters? And I saw a very troubling statistic the other day. There are more would-be home buyers that are over the age of 70 in the United States than under the age of 30. So that's telling me like these young kids, they're not even in the game. And I think it's because it's not affordable. So you have this situation, and some people say, well, companies should not be able to buy homes. That's difficult to do legislatively because, you may have a small business that has 2 or 3 homes, and they may do stuff like that. It's not all BlackRock, but I'll tell you, if you say your personal homesteaded residence can't be subject to property tax, but the investors could still be subject to property tax, what does that do? That basically puts a thumb on the scale in favor of traditional home ownership. That is going to make it better for people, and ultimately, I think, more desirable to be a homeowner rather than necessarily to be an investor. So I think there's a whole host of issues that are wrapped around in this. But the one thing we control, we don't control the price of your home. We don't control the insurance market. These are things that have market forces. Now, there's things that we can do to make things more attractive here or there on the margins, but ultimately, those are private decision making. Taxes is purely government. The market can do what they want. We the people of the state control through our Constitution how your property can or cannot be taxed. And so we have an opportunity to present that on the ballot in November of 2026. I've talked to a lot of these legislators. I mean, they're really excited about being able to do it. I know we didn't have necessary support, in the leadership, certainly from the House, on what we were trying to do. Because I just said, listen, we'll do the ballot in 26, but in 25, we should do a $1,000 rebate for homestead Floridians. And we could have done it, and they didn't want to do it. Now, I think the constituents are asking, hey, we want property tax relief. So I think the rank and file in both the House and Senate are really excited about being able to lean in on this. But that's the one thing we can control. So we can't manipulate the housing prices. That is obviously, that goes up and down. And when you have, so not only do you have a gap between median income and home prices, I think you probably have to go back right before 2008. You have way more sellers than buyers right now. So if you go back 3 years ago, certainly in Florida in the COVID rush, there were way more buyers than sellers. I mean, literally, I'd be talking to people, someone would just knock on their door and say, hey, I want to buy your house. Here's cash, do it. Because people were fleeing California. Because, California, like a middle-class home, just costs a lot more than it does in Florida. So they could cash out of their home there, have a bigger house here, and still pocket money. So they're just cutting people checks, saying, we'll take it. So that was that. Now, there's a lot more stuff that's on the market. And I think what's holding up sales is the interest rates. That people, if they're in an existing home with a lower rate, they don't want to get out of that and then have to do a home that they're going to be paying a lot more in a monthly payment because of the increased interest costs. When those interest rates go down, I think you're going to start to see more sales occur. But I think a lot of people, and I'm kind of lean this way, I don't think sellers are going to be happy with what they're offered. I think more people will be in the market, but I think they're going to offer a lot less than what they were willing to offer, 2 years ago. And I think you're going to probably see some correction in the overall prices of homes when interest rates go down. Now, new construction, you have the costs, the inflation that we've seen over many years, that contributes to it too, obviously. I mean, whatever it costs to build a house today versus 5 years ago, it isn't like just like 5 or 6% more. I mean, it's a lot more. All this stuff, replacing damage to your home is a lot more expensive than it was. So these are a bunch of different factors. I do think that what we have now is not sustainable for housing market. I think push is going to come to shove eventually. But what can we do to make it easier for Floridians? The thing we can control, we the people, obviously the elected officials voting to put this on the ballot, and then we the people being able to cast a vote in November 26th, that's the one thing, the taxes we can control. And I'm here to tell you, and I think the DOGE efforts and the audits that Blaise and Golia are leading are part of this. And it's interesting, we've got some people in Hillsborough who've welcomed this. We have others who haven't. We've got some in other parts of the state that have welcomed this, and then we have others who have fought it. So, you can kind of see, but I don't think anybody can justify the increases that we've seen in many of these local government budgets over the last 4 or 5 years. And so the question is that, as a taxpayer, what you want to see? Certainly when it's anything extraneous to education and kind of the law enforcement and the core functions, or would you rather focus on the core functions, have that reasonable budget, and then be able to actually own your home free and clear of the government? Because I do think these property taxes have pinched a lot of people, and I think we got to do something about it. So all I will say to that is stay tuned. We're going to be, I'm already working with folks. We're crunching numbers. We're doing all these different things, but you are going to have an opportunity to get this done in November of 2026, and I will be on the front lines trying to deliver that for you. Thank you.